Hello YouTube, and welcome to another video review unboxing. I call them reviews, but really I think it's a slightly unfair title. I'm not a professional reviewer. I haven't got the time to mercilessly pore over these items and give you a real in-depth analysis. But I like to think that what I'm giving you is a kind of everyman's unboxing, and certainly some initial impressions, and then hopefully moving on from that, some deeper impressions about the miniatures that come included with the game and the game itself, because obviously it is a board game. So this is new from GW. Well, I say new, they've announced it ages ago. Warhammer 40,000 Lost Patrol. And this was originally, I believe, released as a board game in the early 2000s with those rather cool looking mohawked scouts, and now we have the new version of it. So the box shows you kind of what happens in this game. You can see all these gene stealers here, Tyranid gene stealers, and they're all coming after these 5 blokes. They are Space Marine scouts, and really the box art sums up the game in a nutshell. Dudes with shotguns, guy with a heavy bolter, and a sergeant with a pistol. There we have it. So this is a GW product. I think it's fair to say that our expectations must be high in terms of the quality of the box and what you get inside it in terms of miniatures and that kind of thing. So I was going to try and play with the light a little bit just so we don't get so much glare this time. So there we have it. So you can see a sort of Zoidberg-esque gene stealer. Nice painting guide basically. It's Blood Angel Scout with heavy bolter, Blood Angel Scout Sergeant. Tells you about the game, set in the dark far future. Lost Patrol is a dynamic 2-player board game with a difference. A squad of elite Space Marine scouts must battle their way through ever-changing jungle paths to a crashed vessel, hunted at every terrifying step by fearsome alien gene stealers. Featuring stunning miniatures and ingenious gameplay in which the board itself evolves, it's utterly compelling and action-packed experience. Will any of the Imperium's crack troops live to tell the tale? Only you can decide. It's a little bit of a misnomer. Space Marine scouts are not actually elites or crack troops. I suppose by human standards they are, but within the context of Space Marines they're not. They are the novitiates. So I'm not sure what, I suppose we should probably just ignore that and take it for what it is, right? So the box shows you, what to expect. And you can see the miniatures there, the gene stealers, the Space Marine scouts, the rather nice tiles actually, some dice. It says it's for 2 players, playtime is approximately 30 minutes. Thanks heavens for that. It gives you a contents breakdown, and it even tells you complexity level, which is nice. Because I think this is a good introductory game, and the rules themselves are very, very simple in real terms. So a really nice looking box so far, manufactured in the UK and distributed by Games Workshop. So it's actually made in the UK. Nice, isn't it? Okay, so what we've got here, I have opened this before. This is not a true unboxing. I'm not going to sit here and be surprised by everything I see. I've also removed some bits and pieces just to make life easier. So this is literally like a board game box. So you've got the rule set here. It's a few pages long. I mean, it's really, really quite skinny. It gives you the basic rules, and it doesn't actually tell you how to paint your miniatures, which is one of those things that you expect to see, and there's a reason for that, and we'll see in a minute. But there we go, beautifully made rule book. We'll come back to that in a minute. The assembly instructions for the Tyranid Gene Stealers Brood, and it just gives you a quick breakdown there. What to do with them, how to stick them together. I'm not sure because I don't collect Tyranids, but I think these are relatively standard instructions that it looks like they've just lifted from the normal box set, and they've done the same with the Space Marine Scouts here. Just the usual diagram, tells you what you get, some optional extras and how they go together, and they are really, really simple assembly figures. There's nothing complex going on. My only downside, I think this is one of the kits that was heavily CAD designed, and from a kind of artistic perspective, I think you can see that in their faces. They've got very sort of square, machine designed faces. I'm not a massive fan of these heads, so I suspect what I will do when I assemble mine is actually swap the heads out, because frankly those just don't do it for me, or some of them don't anyway. Okay, so the next thing is, obviously this is a board game. It has tiles, and I've separated these out into 3 bags just because there's quite a few of these tiles. So these are the normal tiles, and they're very beautiful, and I'll show you some of those up close in a minute. And this is the second bag. Again, these are just the normal tiles. Then there are 2 special tiles in the game. There's this one here, which is the landing tile, and I'll show you that in a minute as well. Some dice. There's only 3 dice, which tells us we're not rolling buckets of dice in this game. We have some bases, 25mm bases, rounds. And here it is. This is why you don't necessarily need to paint your miniatures, and why there isn't, I don't think, a paint guide with this. The Space Marine miniatures are in red plastic, and the Gene Stealers ones are in a kind of purplish Space Hulk coloured plastic, which I think is a fantastic idea, because not everybody who buys this is necessarily a miniature wargamer. And so there is a kind of real argument here that actually this isn't a mini war game. This is really just a board game. And if you bought a copy of Risk and you had to paint up every single one of those little tiny men things, you'd go mad. So what they've done here is they've given you a Space Marine kit ready to go. All you got to do is glue it together, and they're red, just like the Blood Angels. And you can see the difference in kit that they've got. You know, there's various arms you might need, bolt pistols, shotguns, bolters, you know, everything you might need to get, you know, to get started. These are the standard kits, I think, as well, as far as I can tell. I don't think this is a special kit for this boxed set. So really nice. As I say, if you look at these faces, I think they're a bit kind of CAD designed for my tastes, very sort of machine designed. But at the end of the day, you can always swap those heads out. So there we have it. So, and loads of cool little bits and pieces like melter bombs and you know, grenades and whatnot. So, you know, I think from a kind of wargamer's perspective, getting this box set, you can be as creative as you really want to. Okay, so I'll put the Space Marines to one side for now, and we'll have a quick look at the Gene Stealers. Now, again, I suspect what we've got here is, it looks like 3 identical, you know, sprues, and this is now a venerable kit. So let me clear this out, just quickly show you. We'll have a look at the Gene Stealer stuff in a minute, but look at the box. This is a standard board game style box. The idea is that once you've painted your miniatures, or assembled at least your miniatures, they can live in here along with, because you'll actually save some space taking off the sprues. You'll assemble them, they'll live in here with the tiles and with the rule book, and everything will just sit in neatly in this box, and it can sit on your shelf. You don't need a display cabinet unless you really want to. Right, let me clear some space and we'll have a closer look at those Gene Stealers quickly. Okay, so the Gene Stealer kit, again, it's in that nice purplish plastic that we got, bluish, greyish purple, that we got with Space Hulk, and there's loads of options in terms of heads, because this is just the standard Gene Stealer kit. So they, you know, if you're a Tyranid player, you've just got some more. You've just got some more Tyranids. If you're not a Tyranid player, good for you, because you don't really have to waste your time painting these. I think one of the good things of this kind of coloured plastic is that at the end of the day, if all you want to do is just glue them together and maybe dab a bit of paint on, you can do that. If you want to go nuts and paint it properly, you can do that too. It's your choice. And this is now quite an old kit, actually, this Gene Stealer kit. But actually, I'm quite impressed. Doesn't look like a huge amount of sort of flash on them, you know. Doesn't look like they need an awful amount of cleanup, which is a positive thing, because there's nothing worse than sitting and cleaning up miniatures. I know that from my experience with plastic. I always miss the mold lines, and then I end up with horrific marks, you know, where I've missed it, because I'm not diligent enough, I suspect. But you can see, like for instance, there's a bit of a line showing. So what we'll do now is we'll just get the light back down here and we'll look at some of the tiles, because I think one of the things, I mean, the miniatures aside, the rules aside, I think one of the really nice things about this is these tiles, and we've seen this recently with a lot of Games Workshop things. I think the Horus Heresy box set, the Betrayal Calc one, the Overwatch board set, and then before that the Assassins board set, have all kind of prided themselves on these beautifully made tiles. And I think they're useful, not just for the game themselves, but also just for kind of Zone Mortala style space if you wanted to. You know, a few of these box sets, or even just one, carefully arranged, would make for quite a fun small scale game, you know, much like this game itself, but you can maybe make the rules more complex if you want to. So look on the back, Lost Patrol, and there's the clearing. This is where you land with your Space Marine Scouts, and this is the capsule, or the dropship capsule you're trying to get back to. That's your way out. Okay, and the basic premise of this game is that you land on this square here, the giant centipede sitting on it. See there? It's a death world, and you need to try and make your way back to the drop ship itself. So I mean, we all know the Imperium is a giant place, and although this is supposed to be the world of Moraz 3, and these are supposed to be the Blood Angels, you know, I'm going to paint mine up most likely in Dark Angels colours to go with my Dark Angels army, and they will be Dark Angels scouts who are trying to get off the planet. And so you've got this one here. Now they come up in a stack. This is where you start with. It's a special tile. You always start with this tile. You put your 5 Space Marine Scouts on there, and then it's the Gene Stealer player who actually you stack up the rest of the tiles, and you draw them, you know, in a random fashion to try and get you know, paths through this jungle. And so what I'll do is I'll give you an idea of that quickly. If you look here, so this is just one bag that I've made up. This is my own personal thing. You don't get these bags. I just did this because I don't want loads of bits of cardboard flapping around. But basically, you always start with this one here. You'll shuffle these basically, and you'll end up with a stack that are sort of, that all lost patrol like that. So you obviously don't know what's coming, all right? And you shuffle them up, and you make a stack, all right? So, and then what happens is you shuffle the pack, the stack the way you want to. Okay, these came on a card thing. Obviously, I've punched them out and got rid of that because it's just unnecessary. And the actual drop ship tile goes right at the bottom. Okay, so you always know the dropship one's going to be at the bottom, and it's a race against time basically, because the Gene Stealer player will keep spawning more units, and he'll keep coming at you. And obviously, the Space Marines have only got 5 blokes, and you have to keep going and keep going. And the idea would be that, so for instance, if your miniatures are here, you can see down that way. You would then keep drawing tiles until you get to a bend where you can't see. So that would be the case. See, so now the path is naturally bends, and then you can't see further than that. So in order for the Space Marine player to see what lies beyond, he'd have to then put a scout here, and then you would keep going and keep building and keep building and keep building. And as far as I understand it, the Gene Stealer player is the one who has the initiative, so he draws and he places them. So if there's a fork in the road or something like that, he's the one who gets to decide, you know, whether he makes it easy for the Space Marine player or not. From what I understand, this game is very difficult and you seldom win. So it's a really interesting idea for a game. It takes half an hour to play apparently. I will play a game of this before I give my final verdict. So at the end of this video, a game will have been played. Yeah. So that's a future perfect for those who are grammar buffs. A game will have been played. And I'll give you my thoughts on that. But for now, I just wanted to share with you the beautiful tiles. I think that, you know, Games Workshop really are one of the best manufacturing companies in the world. You can hate them for a multitude of reasons, their pricing, their marketing, whatever, their business practices, but I do think they make a great product. I mean, just look at that. That just looks so cool, doesn't it? And some of these tiles actually have, like, I don't want to say special rules, but like this tangleweed one. If you enter this one and you try and leave, it has a sort of, you have to roll to leave it. You know, here's another one with bits and pieces of you know, gribbly monsters being eaten by by equally gribbly plants. And I just think that it's something that's really, really nice. And actually, do you know what I thought you could do with this as well? Why not make it into a Lustria type of board game? There's nothing to stop you from substituting the Gene Stealers for Lizardmen, and the Space Marines for, I don't know, Dwarven Adventurers, or Empire Adventurers, or anybody really, or even Skaven if you want to. And you could just imagine this being, there's somebody's boots being dragged down. You can just imagine that really, the rule set itself, I think, is quite generic in the sense that you can utilize the same mechanisms that you would for the Space Marine Scouts, and you could sub them out for other blokes. You could have Imperial Guardsmen, for instance, or you know, Eldar or whatever. I mean, there's literally there's not enough granularity, I think, to the units or to the actual miniatures themselves, the way they're represented in the game, to make it necessary to create special rules or anything. So, for instance, keeping it in 40k rather than going to fantasy, if you wanted to, you could perhaps have a game where, you know, you're an Imperial Guardsman and your squad of Imperial Guardsmen are trying to get to the end point, and they're being attacked by Kroot on all sides, or orcs even, but maybe savage orcs, because, you know, you want an emphasis on close combat in this game rather than shooting. The idea is that the small elite unit is the shooty unit, and the assaulting unit is the kind of hordes of close combat machines, if you will. So there it is. I thought I would just share that with you. The tiles, I think, are just really beautiful, and as I mentioned, You know, I don't think you need to have paint on these miniatures to play, and I think even if you didn't want to necessarily play with Space Marine Scouts against Tyranids, maybe it's just not your speed, maybe it's not what you like, you can always, I think with very little effort, you know, change it. Why not? It's your game, do with it what you want. So I just thought finally we'll flick through, and it's very simple. Not many pages. The rules seem nice and elegant. I've given them a read through, and they really do look very elegant and simple. But also, I think it's one of those games where the rules themselves are quite simple, but I think so being able to pick up and play will be good. But it's going to be about the nuance that both players develop in terms of their strategies. You know, the Genestealer player clearly has the upper hand, but if the Genestealer player is not smart, they can throw away the advantage they have in numbers very easily.
Okay, so I thought I'd end this video by just thanking you for watching. I think what'll happen is there'll be a part 2 after I've played the game and I've developed some further thoughts on how it plays and whether I like it and whether some of the suggestions I've made are actually plausible going forward. And then hopefully in part 2 I'll be able to just give a much shorter video with just some cursory comments on how the game plays, because obviously at this stage it's all rather kind of theoretical. And then hopefully that'll give people a better idea as to whether it's worthwhile buying or not. It's been a while since it came out, so you probably have it already if not. But I think certainly there's some elements of this video that are worth sharing and worth talking about. And especially, I think the things I take away from it are the further usability of this, the board tiles, and again, just the idea that you can port it over into different settings if you want. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'm sorry I haven't been getting as much content out as usual. Hopefully things will pick up once things settle down on my end. You can check my blog for information about that. And I wish you all the best, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.